Alright, let's get started with loops. So, first thing first, what are loops and how do they work? Well, loops are basically code that is done again and again until the condition becomes false. So think of it like this. The condition is checked. If it's true, the code or the conditional code is run, and then the condition is checked again. If true, the conditional code is run again, then the condition is checked again. And this cycle keeps on going until the condition becomes false, and then the loop stops. Alright? So loops are very, very useful in Python, and there are two types of loops. For this lecture, we're going to be discussing about for loops, and in the next lecture, we'll actually talk about while loops. And then there's also nested loops and so on, but we'll get to those in a different lecture. So, for loops, okay? What are for loops? For loops basically execute a sequence of statements multiple times and abbreviates the code that manages the loop variable. So, a simple for loop here would be, for example, the way you're going to write it is for and then a variable name. You could say for I, for A, for Bob, anything, but normally you use a letter. So for I in range, okay, and then you put the range brackets from, let's say, 0 to 5. 0 to 5. Do what? Print I. Alright, so let's take a quick look at what this code is doing. For I in range 0, 5. All this statement says is assign the value from 0 to 5 to I. So I value becomes 0, I's value becomes 1, I's value becomes 2, and so on until this loop ends. And then all we're doing is print I. So if we run this, we get 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fantastic. So this is what we call a very, very simple for loop. Okay? So, what's next with for loops? Well, you can iterate through lists, dictionaries, tuples, and so on. So let's create a quick list over here. I'm going to call it shopping list. And let me go ahead and add some items. So, whoops. Milk, eggs, one sec. Oranges. Alright? This is my shopping list. Now what I can do with for loops is I can iterate through the shopping list. Well, how is this going to work? Let's take a look back up here at what the code was doing. When we said for I in something, all we did is we assigned the value of that something, we iterated through it, and we assigned each of the values to I. So every time a value was assigned to I, the code ran, or the code was run. So over here in our shopping list, what we can do now is for I in shopping list, okay? So for I in shopping list, all we have to do is print I. And when we do that, we're going to get milk, eggs, orange. So it's pretty simple. With the for loop, there's two things you can do. One is you can set a range, and this range can be from any value you want, from 0 to 10, 10 to 15, whatever you want, and it iterates through those numbers. It'll go, if you're doing from 10 to 15, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. And then what you can do with for loops is you can iterate through a set of data. For example, if I have a tuple, let me go ahead and create a tup. Tup is equal to 2, 4, 3, and 6, 2, 43, 6. I can say for I in tup, print I. And what do I get? 243, 6. So you can use for loops to iterate through data as well. Now let's go back to our range function over here. What we did is we called for I in range, and then we specified the starting value and the ending value. Guess what? There's more to it. Right now, all we've done is we've set the value as the x and the y, so the starting value and the ending value. But there's also one more value you can add to this range function. Think about it. You might get it, you might not. But basically, what it is it is called the incrementator. Okay? You can add the increment factor as well to this for loop. For example, if I wanted all the even numbers, okay, how would that work? I do from, let's say, the first 50 even numbers. So I do for I in range, my starting number, to my nth plus 1 number. So if I want 100, I do 101. And then what am I counting by? I'm counting by 2's. Okay? Again, this is very cool. So it looks like it gives me invalid syntax. That was because I forgot my colon. So for I in range 0, 101, 2, print I. Now, if you're one step ahead of me, what does it print? It prints all the even numbers from 0 to 100. Isn't that cool? So let's go back to the code we wrote. And let me just explain this one more time here. The range function, which is this, takes in 3 parameters. The starting value, the ending value plus 1, and then the incrementator. So do you want to go by 2's? Do you want to go by 1's? Do you want to go by 3's? And you can go negative as well. For example, if you want to count down from 100 to 0, your starting value would be 100, your ending value would be 0, and then you'd say the incrementator as -1. Something along those lines. Well, let's go ahead and give it a try. So can we change this? Yes. 100, 0, -1. Does it allow us? Let's take a look. Yes, it does. As you can see, now we're counting down from 100 to 1. So this is some of the benefits of the for loop. You can do code quickly. Instead of printing out each of the individual items of a list, or let's say printing the numbers from 1 to 5, you do print 1, print 2, print 3, and so on. Instead of doing all those accumulative print statements, you can do it in 2 lines. For I in 1, 6, print I. And all that returns you is... Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot the range function. My bad. Oh, God. For I in range 1, 6, print I, you get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is where loops come handy. They make your code work much faster, much easier, and much simpler. Fantastic job, guys. If you have any questions about for loops, definitely leave a comment. For loops are amazing to use, and I love them. Now, in the next lecture, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about while loops. So this lecture was a brief introduction to for loops. I just wanted to give you the idea of how it worked. And in the next lecture, let's talk about while loops.